said, here, hold this a little bit.
Good evening, everybody. For the record, it cannot be October 13th already. Where has this year gone? October 13th, 2022, 5:15 p.m., time for the regular meeting of the Wenatchee City Council. We always start with a pledge to our flag, and the city attorney today said he wanted to lead us, so Steve?
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So in attendance today, we have 5 council members with us present. Councilmember Hornby is on vacation. Councilmember Huffaker, are you with us today?
I am here.
Excellent. So we have 6 council members with us tonight. So our first item on our agenda always now is citizen comment. This would be a time for any member of the audience who wishes to come up and address the city council on something that's on tonight's agenda or not on tonight's agenda. This would be a time to do so. Obviously there's improvements of a swimming pool contract that's on our agenda tonight and a couple of motions regarding recreational vehicles and so forth. So if anybody would like to address us on any of those items, this would be the time to do so. I just ask you to come up and give us 3 minutes or so and name and address for the record. Come on up. Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Wave to all your friends at home. You're on TV. Sit down, relax. You can sit down.
Okay.
Yeah.
We left the 16-year-old in the seats.
I really wanted to listen to him, to be honest with you, but
We made convincing.
we may convince him. All right.
Yeah, you can ask him a question
Okay.
directly.
Okay.
And he might answer.
So Brant Madsen, Rachel Madsen, name, address, 1354 Patsu Place here in Wenatchee. Come up here to chat just a little bit about the pool. Longtime members of the Velocity Swim Team. It's kind of vital to our swim team for funding and practice times and pool space here in Wenatchee. Other thing I kind of wanted to remind people that, we may kind of forget about with the outdoor pool, besides being a large hole that you sink a lot of money into, it actually does bring in some income in terms of these events that we have. Apple Capital Swim Meet, 800 swimmers from families from, Alaska. They're coming in, spending money, working, at the hotels and restaurants in town. So with 800 swimmers plus families and stuff, I mean, there's a lot of money that gets brought into the valley. We do 2 swim meets. Our second swim meet is actually grown in size dramatically. We almost had another 800 swimmers. Actually had to cancel that meet this year. That was rather painful for our swim team.
Is that because of the boiler that wasn't working?
Yes. So we had an issue there. And coming out of the pandemic, we're actually doing all right, but it was definitely missed. We were super excited to get the second swim meet, which is Starlight Meet. We had quite a bit of our local, Apple Capital seems to bring in more of the West Side folks. We were getting a lot of our Eastern Washington folks from Yakima and Spokane, Tri-Cities. Come into this meet. So again, bringing in some influence. So as it does cost quite a bit of money to maintain the facility, and I know tonight's putting up a lot of money to get that liner fixed and kind of keep this pool going. Just wanted to kind of point out that it definitely does bring in some income into the valley as well that may not be seen through the books at the pool doors.
I also just wanted to just kind of address the importance of a pool to our community outside of Velocity. Our kids, we have 4 kids, and they have all been employed at the city pool as high schoolers. They've been lifeguards, they've been swim instructors, they've worked with kids ages 3 to 15, some kids with special needs. And that has just been a life skill that wouldn't have necessarily been able to be developed. And there's many kids in the valley who use the city pool during the week when their parents are at work, and they go play at the pool, and then they go to the park, and they have meals provided for them, and then they go back to the park. So yeah, does that mean we're done?
Well, it means you should be wrapping up.
Okay.
Is that like the music during the,
Yeah.
And then there was only one other thing I wanted to comment on with Ben being here. Coach Tom submitted a letter, I believe, to you all, and he talked about the 3 boys that attended the meet. And then Ben was the national level swimmer. He has a lot of big goals, and something like the city pool is very important so that we have an Olympic-sized 50-meter pool in our valley for kids like him to train in to make it to the next level. It's very, very unique for a city our size to continuously be supporting for, I think, 50 years almost, an aquatics program like this. So I'd really just like to ask that you guys fund the liner.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here. Anybody else wish to address the council on something that's either on tonight's agenda or not? Seeing no other takers, we have consent items, and then we have a presentation regarding Family History Week. So our first item then would be approval of consent items, including the agenda vouchers and minutes from the previous meetings and a number of ordinances.
Your Honor, I would hope my fingers wouldn't be so sticky. I would make a motion that we adopt the consent items. This includes the agenda for this evening's meeting, the vouchers and minutes from previous meetings. This motion includes for the council to accept the work performed by the contractor Black Forest Finishing on city project number SW20-04, unit priced concrete flat work, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract voucher. Motion for the city council to adopt ordinance number 2022-21, providing for a definition of recreational vehicles, restricting parking of recreational vehicles on all city streets, and providing for an effective date. And the motion for the city council to adopt ordinance number 2022-22, relating to the impound of abandoned, unauthorized, and junk vehicles, declaring a public nuisance for junk vehicles, and repealing ordinance number 2711 related to abandoned vehicles.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Poyer to adopt this evening's consent items, including the agenda, vouchers, and our minutes from our previous meeting. A motion for the city council to accept the work performed by the contractor Black Forest Finishing on city project number SW20-04, unit price concrete flat work, and further authorize the mayor to sign the final contract voucher. And a motion for the city council to adopt ordinance number 2022-21, providing for a definition of recreational vehicles, restricting parking of recreational vehicles on all city streets, and providing for an effective date. And a motion for the city council to adopt ordinance 2022-22 relating to the impound of abandoned, unauthorized, and junk vehicles, declaring a public nuisance for junk vehicles, and repealing ordinance 2711 relating to abandoned vehicles. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We have one presentation tonight regarding Family History Week, and I think Councilmember Rojanostatian has that, and if you'd read that into the record.
Sir, Family History Week. Whereas within our nation's libraries and archives lie the treasured records that detail the history of our nation, our states, our communities, and our citizens. And whereas an ever-growing number of people in our community are collecting, preserving, and sharing genealogies, personal documents, and memorabilia that detail the life and times of their families. And whereas the study of family history gives individuals a sense of their heritage and sense of responsibility in carrying out a legacy that their ancestors began. And whereas interest in our personal family history transcends all cultural and religious affiliations. And whereas to encourage family history research, education, and the sharing of knowledge is to renew the commitment to the concept of home and family. Now, therefore, I, Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor of the City of Wenatchee, Washington, do hereby proclaim the week of October 9th through the 16th, 2022, as Family History Week, and urge all citizens to learn about their family history, heritage, and culture, and to share this knowledge with their families, friends, and the community. In witness whereof, I have caused the seal of the City of Wenatchee to be affixed on this 13th day of October, 2022. Frank J. Kuntz, Mayor.
Thank you. Top, Jackie, come on up. So I'm going to go first. So yesterday afternoon, I was invited to East Wenatchee with Mayor Crawford and learned about the program that you're going to talk about. And it was fascinating. And I know a little bit about my family history, but not enough. I know Mark Kulas knows about his entire family history. But this program was really cool, a way to figure out sort of where we all come from. And so I'm going to give the mic to you. First of all, I'll give that to you. And then I'll let you say a little bit more about the program.
So as he was saying, this week is we've declared as Family History Week. And so we're working in conjunction with the Wenatchee Area Genealogical Society, or WAGS, which is our local genealogical society, and the Family Search with Center. We are excited to have a whole week of events, and it all is culminating into this Saturday's event, which is our open house of the new Wenatchee Family Search Center, which Family Search, if you're not aware of, is one of the largest online free genealogical websites. It's just as big as Ancestry and Find My Past or My Heritage. But in Wenatchee, we are lucky enough to have a Family Search Center over in East Wenatchee, and it has 8 computers that allows you to come and discover more about your family history. We have genealogists that are there to help you, and we have many different resources. But the exciting thing is Family Search also has, when you use the building, has free online access to all of the major paid subscriptions that we can not only discover through Family Search, but also those other ones that I'd mentioned. So we'd invite everyone to come out and discover more who you are and who your family is.
Excellent. Thank you. So can I give these to council members? Okay. How many do I need? Is there enough? Okay. Give some to the people in the audience. Okay. Get our picture taken first. Hold on. So this will be on Facebook, not on the one that you're promoting, right? Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
I'm going to give that to you. I'm going to have these out. Yeah, that's German, isn't it? I think Rojanashvatian's Irish, right?
Yeah, it is.
I thought you were thinking about family.
What's Pointer? French? Well, that makes sense. All right, we're passing out the cards. We have a number of action items tonight, so we'll just go ahead and get started. The first is regarding the pool plumbing and liner repair project bid. See, we did this just for you guys, first time in the meeting.
Good
Mr.
evening,
Erickson.
Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm Dave Erickson, Parks and Recreation Director for the city. So this item, actually a similar item, was to you earlier this year when we took the pool project out to bid and the bids came in too high. So at that point, we ended up rebidding the project through September and October, opened the bids on October 3rd and received one bid. Again, the same bidder that bid the last time. This time the bidding was more favorable. So the staff estimate for this project was 1.6 million. The bid came in at 1.79 million. One thing I should mention, that's for the base bid. So in your packet, you've got a breakdown of the base bid, alternate 1 and alternate 2, and just a little description about what those alternates are and what that kind of means. So base bid is changing out the liner and the circulation system underneath the pool itself. So that's kind of, if you picture the pool, it's pretty much everything within the footprint of the pool. Then we have 2 different alternates. The first alternate is to line the pipe that runs from the pool to the mechanical room itself. So it takes, there's a span of maybe 25 feet that runs from the pool building to under the pool deck into the mechanical room where all the filters and all that stuff happens. The second alternate item is to jackhammer out the pool deck, dig a hole, and replace the pipe that way. And the reason why we have those 2 alternates in is because we were able to camera some of the pipe work, but because of the way that the plumbing under the ground is, it comes down, goes at a 90 degree, another 90 degree and down. And so we weren't able to get the camera all the way down. So the only way we'll be able to do that is once the other plumbing is taken out, then we'll be able to expose that pipe, see what the condition is, and go from there. So we could be looking at either just the base bid if the pipe is pristine and perfect. Alternate one, where we would line that pipe with a PVC liner, not have to dig the pool deck up, or alternate two, if the pipe is really bad and we can't get it with the liner, then we would dig up the pool deck and replace the line that way. That way then we're good from the mechanical room all the way into the pool and the whole pool circulation system. With your approval, construction would begin July 31st of next year and extend all the way into October. And that would allow then for a shorter season than normal by a couple of weeks, but the meets that the Madsons mentioned would all still be able to be accommodated, assuming that we operate on a normal basis, as well as the Summer Swim League Championship meet, which we bring in, which is by all the Summer Swim League teams. With that, staff's recommending approval, and be happy to answer any of your questions.
I just want to make sure we have the numbers correct. We estimated like 1.6 million, something around there, and then it came, first bid was like 2.1.
Right,
Okay,
2
so-
almost, yeah.
So, and then this brought it back to 1.8.
1.7, yeah, 1.8.
Yeah, I think that two things happened, I think, since we rejected the last bid. One is we got confirmation on the second $350,000 grant, so that took out of our, and then the bids came in, I think, yeah, $300,000 or $400,000 less. So there's a $700,000 difference between what you were asked for, a couple months ago and today, which makes this way more palatable to our general fund. So I think it's, I was nervous at 1.3 or 1.4. At $700,000, our general fund can handle doing this if it's the council's desire to do so.
And the goal is 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, our last liner was put in 1996, so 26 years.
So
That one's been
you're going to
in.
get a new liner, you're going to get a new, some new piping, and you're going to get a
New boiler, too.
new boiler. So,
Yeah,
so you got a new engine and a new transmission, so how long is your car going to last? Right? I mean, you don't know.
And this
But-
takes care of the leak that we have.
should take care of the leak, yep.
Yeah. So, any other questions for David? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to accept the bid from the Pool Company Incorporated in the amount of $1,790,900 and authorize the mayor to sign a standard construction agreement for the city pool liner and plumbing project.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Harold, a second by Councilmember Rojanastatian, for the council to accept the bid from the Pool Company, Inc., interesting name, in the amount of $1,790,900 and authorize the mayor to sign a standard construction agreement for the city pool liner and plumbing project. Discussion? Mr. Poyer?
I have, we're looking at 10 years. I'm also on the Chelan Douglas Transportation Council. And this this is fine for the 10 years, but there is some excitement about the council, on that council, about instead of like an aquatic, more of a bigger project for everybody to contribute to. And so we'll need to encourage the cities around us and the counties to come up with a plan. I'm going to vote yes to this, but I will not vote again to have this in the city. It's really needs to be a regional event, regional money, a regional place to have it for our future.
Anybody else wish to comment? All right, hearing no other comments. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, David.
Thank you. And
Thanks, guys.
next summer, end of next summer, most likely, we will come back in once we expose those pipes and determine which option. So we come back with a change order at some point to address.
Perfect. Thanks, David. All right, Laura, you've got two items up here, one regarding contract with the chamber and a second regarding emergency management. So, Steve, you want to come up?
Good evening, Council. Laura Gloria, Executive Services Director, and this is Steve Wilkinson, the Executive Director of the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce. So the item before you is a 3-year agreement for tourism, for destination marketing and management efforts through the chamber. That is a contract that is funded currently with our lodging tax funds. This contract proposes to use both lodging tax and tourism promotion area funds. I included a breakdown of that calculation. It is a 50-50 split in the agenda report. So for years 2023, it's $458,630. And then there would be a 3% increase based off of increases in overall hotel, motel, and TPA revenue. We have made a significant change to the contract in terms of scope and defining scope and some of the deliverables. Steve and I have worked really closely on that, and then we also will work on defining some outcomes and measurables in the coming months as we settle into the new contract and the new year. So this is a contract from 2023 to 25. Our existing contract ends this year, so we would propose to continue the services with the chamber. And Steve, if you want to add anything?
Well, only thing I will add is a very constructive process. I want to say right from the beginning, all parties, especially the city of Wenatchee, has been very transparent and very forthright with me on the contract. And so just working with the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, working with TPA, and working really with Laura and Brad back there as well. It just was a very constructive process. It's, you know, you take some negotiation, take some discussion. A lot of parties with, I'll say, with a historical background, and there are some changes from the past few years. But I think the changes that we see are changes that reflect going forward. And that's what I like about this new contract. It really does represent how we're looking going forward as a Visit Wenatchee brand and what outcomes are expected from us, the chamber, what's our scope of work, and what benchmarks should we be reaching. So there's real solid expectations from the city and that we can understand and that we can achieve.
Excellent. Any questions for Steve or Laura? I do appreciate, I know it took us a while to get there, but sometimes processes are good, and I appreciate both of you, both Laura and Steve, working through this with your various boards and the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee to get a contract together. And so I'll look forward to the next 3 years of Visit Wenatchee.
Smooth, yeah, there
Yep.
we go.
Any questions for either Steve or Laura? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion for the City Council to approve the contract with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce for a 3-year term starting at $458,630 for 2023 with 3% annual increases, and authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Cuevas, for the City Council to approve the contract with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce for a 3-year term starting at $458,630 for 2023 with a 3% annual increase, and authorizing the mayor's signature on the contract. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
And emergency management.
Yes.
Laura.
The item before you is the 2023 Agreement for Emergency Services between the City of Wenatchee and Chelan County Department of Emergency Management. We bring this to the City Council for consideration on an annual basis. The Chelan County provides us with a proposed price, which typically changes based off of the city's population as well as their expenses. So you will see a slight increase in that cost from $2.95 for last year per capita to $3.04 for 2023 for a total of $108,376 for the proposed budget for 2023. Chelan County has been our emergency management service operator for basically since the fire district changed hands, and we propose to continue to contract with them for the following year. So happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, these, again, when we were in the fire department business, Stan Smoke did all this for us, and when we got out of the business, we contracted with the county. The county's been doing it for whatever, 8, 9, 10 years. Stan still works for the county on some, and so he's involved with the Public Safety Committee, working with all of our department heads, writing the emergency operations pamphlets and booklets and things we have to do. So I think it's worked out great, and we'll continue the partnership with the county and their emergency management group, if it meets with your approval. Any questions for Laura? If not, I would entertain a motion.
And I'll make a motion for the City of Wenatchee to approve the contract between Chelan County Department of Emergency Management and the City of Wenatchee for 2023 emergency services for $108,376 and authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ojanasti and second by Councilmember Harold for the City Council to approve the contract between Chelan County Department of Emergency Management and the City of Wenatchee for 2023 emergency services for $108,376 and authorize the mayor's signature. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Laura. I'm not sure I want to know what this is.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jessica Shaw, Deputy Public Works Director, Utilities. And I'll keep the details limited unless you have more detailed questions. So for your consideration tonight, we have a contract with Synagro. This is a company that specializes in cleaning digesters. We'd really hoped to wait to clean digester number 1, which is our primary sledge digester, until after we'd finished our digester 4 construction, but not everything goes as planned. And so unfortunately, this digester is very overdue for maintenance. And so thankfully, some of the work we did last year on digester 2, cleaning and adding some valves, we were able to continue operations and take this out of service for this maintenance effort. So the contract is a lump sum for $277,000, which will come out of our operations and maintenance budget. We had ordered some pumps, but have found they won't be here till next year, so those will come out of the 2023 budget. So we're not asking for a budget amendment. This will just, thankfully, we hadn't spent any more of our operations and maintenance budget, so this will.
So how long does this take to clean?
It will take about 2 weeks,
Okay.
if all goes well. Our biggest concern is the digester hasn't been cleaned to anyone's knowledge, even mine, and I've been here, as you know, 20
And this
years.
stuff that comes out, will it go through the treatment plant or will it get hauled off to the drying beds or what do you do with?
Great
I
question.
don't even want to know what that stuff is, but.
Okay, we'll just talk in high terms about solids,
Okay.
not the details. So in there's a lot of garbage that has
Okay.
accumulated because this digester's been in service since the 50s, before we had really good garbage removal at the front of the plant. We installed really good garbage removal in about 2013, so it's been collecting a lot of garbage. It also has a lot of sand. So you think you go to the beach and you come back and wash your clothes, all that sand gets washed out and ends up in our sewer system. So it's accumulated what we call grit or sand and a lot of garbage. And so we're in the process now of pumping out all the sludge that we can reuse and process as part of our biosolids program. And then the garbage that is removed by the contractor will go to our drying bed facility and we'll dry it out and then we'll haul it to the landfill.
Okay. And then does the digester just go right back on after 2 weeks of cleaning and?
Since we haven't seen the inside of it ever, we're
Okay.
going to take a peek and just
Okay.
see how things look inside. And as long as there's no major issues with it, we will put it back into service because it's more challenging operations having it out of service.
I don't want to ask, how do you go inside and look at it?
So that's the goal of the contractor is to get in there and get it nice and clean. And then
Camera, you walk in, I mean, help me.
there's a variety of things. So last year we used a drone to look at the inside of digester 2.
Okay.
And so that's a possibility. I think in this case, we'll probably just do a visual inspection and we'll just use a tripod and harness and lower
Okay.
or like our operator in training in there. So. Would you like
Yes.
to?
Well, I'm
happy
just,
to have you.
I just didn't know what to
Curious, you need to be
expect, right?
We can
Yeah.
send you in if you like.
Yeah,
We'll let you know.
full report, yeah.
Lots of pictures.
So all the material that goes in here now, what happens to it for 2 weeks while it's not operational?
Great
Do we have
question.
enough capacity to store it?
We're hanging in there. So we have tried to process as much, like we've accelerated operations to process as much solids to get it out of the system as quickly as we could. And we've switched over to where we're running on a digester that's usually a storage tank is now operating as our primary digester. And so thankfully it's also the time of year where things at the plant kind of slow down because we're getting out of cherry season in the summer when we see our highest flows and we're treating the most material at the treatment plant. So it's really a good time. I will have to warn you, we've had odors down there because the digester is unwell and struggling with all the garbage in there. So the 2 weeks that we're cleaning it will also be a bit
A
stinky.
little burpy?
Yeah, it'll be stinky around the treatment plant. So the good news is it's not 100 degrees out, right? Because that would really make it a lot worse.
And they're going to start this when?
We're hoping next week.
Okay.
If approved tonight, we're going to get this done, so.
I apologize for getting into the detail, but this was a little bit fascinating for me. So I thought we were like cleaning the toilet, but apparently it's a little bit more than that. All right, any questions for Jessica? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for the city council to award the contract to Synagro for the wastewater treatment plant cleaning of digester number 1 for $301,040, including sales tax, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Poyer, second by Councilmember Kulas, to award the contract to Synagro for the wastewater treatment plant cleaning of digester number 1 for $301,040, including sales tax, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract on behalf of the city. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with that, Jessica.
Thank you.
Mr. Parsons, 60% petition for River Academy.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Matt Parsons, Senior Planner. I am here bringing a resolution to you to set the public hearing for the River Academy annexation. This is a single parcel on South Miller Street, and we've have a complete signed petition. It's been certified by the assessor's office, and now we're ready for a public hearing. So that it'd be set for October 27th, and there'd be another resolution that'd be before you that would authorize staff to send out a notice of intention to go to the boundary review board. So those are kind of the next steps after this. If this resolution is approved, this resolution simply sets the public hearing and also directs staff to provide public notice. Notice in 3 places in the annexation area and in the newspaper.
So tonight, we're setting the public hearing, then the public hearing happens in 2 weeks, and then it goes off to the Board of Adjustment.
That's right.
Yep. Thank you.
It is, yeah, small enough and below the threshold, the value threshold for them.
But
to
that's only
waive their
exempt
review.
if someone doesn't want to have a public hearing about it. So if someone chooses to have a public hearing, like some other governmental entity, then they're required to have a public hearing.
Mhm.
So we'll see. They've never exempted a Wenatchee one yet. They only exempt the ones in Kashmir so far. So we'll see if this one gets exempted or
Yep.
not. All right, any questions for Matt? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to pass Resolution Number 2022-24, fixing time for a hearing on petition for annexation of an unincorporated area containing 1 parcel located on the east side of South Miller Street between Crawford Avenue and Gare Street, also known as the River Academy annexation.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harrell, second by Councilmember Poyer to adopt resolutions. What's that? Was it Cuevas? You guys sound too much alike. Maybe it's the shirt. Is it a shirt?
It's the shirt.
It's the shirt, all right. Motion by Councilmember Harrell, second by Councilmember Cuevas to adopt resolution 2022-24, fixing the time for a hearing and petition for annexation of unincorporated area containing 1 parcel located on the east side of South Miller Street between Crawford Avenue and Gere Street, also known as the River Academy annexation, and the time being 5:15 p.m. on October 27th. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
See, we got the checks on that side of the dais, and we got
Solid-
the solid darks
yeah,
over on this side.
Play a game afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, then you got Tammy's in dark too over there. You don't throw her out of the mix. Mr. Hoover, Peachy Street, what's happening?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Jeremy Hoover, Senior Utility Engineer for the city. I'm here to talk about the Peachy Street Basin water quality retrofit project. For those of you who do not recall, this is a stormwater green initiative project that is helping to clean up the stormwater by installing a series of hydrodynamic separators on the city's storm drain system. There are several locations throughout the city that we're working on. Excuse me. Ferry Street at Chelan, Peachy Street between Chelan and Cashmere, Peachy Street at Wenatchee Avenue directly across from Stan's, and Bridge in Columbia adjacent to the UPS facility. We're installing the hydrodynamic separators on existing storm drain lines and connecting them to those mains. The issue that you see in front of you right now is regarding the work that was done on Peachy Street between Chelan and Cashmere. The pipe that we were connecting to was an old corrugated metal pipe that was destroyed and basically leaking. The internal liner on the inside of the pipe was degraded, just like what we see on a lot of our corrugated metal pipes that have been in the ground for a long time. The pictures that you see, I believe it's on the 6th page of the report, show the condition of the pipe before anything was taken out. In order to connect those hydrodynamic separators, we had to find a solid piece of pipe, and we could not do so. So the entire section of pipe between Chelan and Cashmere had to be replaced with new material. Because of the length of the replacement, it required repaving of a lane, a full lane of traffic, the westbound lane of Peachy Street. Also as part of that, when we removed the asphalt, there was a section of sidewalk that needed to be replaced as well because it was in increasingly bad condition. Having a good piece of sidewalk, a small section of really bad sidewalk, and then an ADA compliant driveway with additional sidewalk didn't make sense. So there are additional costs associated with that, obviously. Some of it is eligible for grant reimbursement by the Department of Ecology that is funding a good portion of this project. Some of it is not. So what you have in front of you is a request to amend the budget, the project budget, and have the mayor, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 5, which takes those costs and effort into account to pay for the additional costs.
And Ecology's paying for most of the additional cost?
Yes, we have 2 grants with the State Department of Ecology. One is a grant for $40,000, and the other is a grant that has a 25% match requirement that the city is paying out of Fund 410.
Thank you.
Jeremy, it's nice to see that you take the ability when something's not quite working right, it's not going exactly in plan, and then thinking ahead and say, gee, we better get rid of this, we better do ADA requirement, do the sidewalk, because that saves the city then money in the long haul. When we come back, we say, now we got this street figured out. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And, the pictures here, like, yeah, it's really impressive. How long does it take for these corrugated pipes to get to this?
I do not know exactly when this one was installed, but typically if you've got a corrugated pipe that's been in the ground for 30, 40, 50 years, it's going to be in poor condition. And that basically fits within the era that these types of storm drains were installed. Sometimes you'll see concrete, sometimes you'll see corrugated metal. It really depends on when things were installed.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Jeremy? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion for the City Council to authorize the mayor to sign the construction change order number 5. Staff, what is that?
Yep. you're good.
Staff further request council to approve a budget increase to increase the project budget to $1,768,765 to account for the work associated with storm drain replacement and associated repaving efforts.
Second.
The motion by Councilmember Rojanostati and second by Councilmember Kulas to authorize the mayor to sign the construction change order number 5 and approve a budget increase to increase the project budget to $1,768,765 to account for the associated work increase with storm drain replacement and repaving efforts. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for all your work on these projects, and I know I sometimes make fun of it, but I do appreciate all the work that you do, and you continue to bring us change orders that make sense, so thank you for all of that, and
Thank you.
wish you the best of luck.
Thank
All right, Brad. 3 items for you tonight.
Yeah, I'm finally doing something, huh?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brad Posenjack, Finance Director. First item I have for you to consider are administrative changes to our utility rates and utility tax administration. What you'll see in this ordinance it is changing all of our utility rates, but at the same time, it is not changing any of our utility rates. I have gotten into those details with Finance Committee and Public Works Committee because this is a very confusing ordinance and process that we have. Decades ago, City Council implemented a utility tax, and the way it was written in the code and the way it was administered by utility billing was not exactly the way that a utility tax should be set up. A utility tax is a B&O tax on the utility, and it is one of a utility's operating costs, just like any other business would have operating costs. The way it's been displayed is it's been displayed on utility bills as a tax on the utility rate. Long story short, it adds lots of confusion for customers, and after chatting with legal counsel, it will put these changes are administrative. They won't change anybody's rates. There'll be a slight change in how it will be displayed, how their rates will be displayed on their bill. But it's as far as dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's for legal risk areas, and as well as just making our administration. Really, the big piece of this is it makes our utility billing administration easier to understand for the customer and for staff as well. Trying to explain some of these things to how the utility tax reflects on their bill has been trying with many customers to get them to understand, because usually we have to refresh our memory how to understand it as well. So if you want me to get into the details, I have a presentation and we can spend 20 minutes.
We've seen it at Finance Committee, we've seen it at Public Works. I think there's a general understanding of,
Yes.
we're not increasing anybody's rates, we're just changing how they show up on a bill to look a little more consistent with what our code should say. So I don't know if there's any reason to hear anything else. So Keith, you have any questions on this?
No, I'm okay.
Perfect. All right, then I would entertain a motion if we had one.
Well, Your Honor, I'd make a motion for the City Council to adopt ordinance 2022-23, amending and restating sections 4.08.35, 5.84.140, 9.02.010, 9.12530, 9.12540, and 9.16060 Wenatchee City Code.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Poyer, to adopt ordinance 2022-23, amending and restating sections 4.08.035, 5.84.140, 9.02.010, 9.12.530, 9.12.540, and 9.16.060 of the Wenatchee City Code. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brad. Thanks for all your work on that. I know we made that look simple, and you got a lot of time and effort and energy into that, so thank you.
Thanks. I imagine this has been something that previous finance directors over the decades have seen as well, and just haven't had staff that really want to push to
tackle that,
to tackle it, because it is very confusing. So thank you. I think the next item I have is an ordinance to amend the city code for our list of budgeting and accounting funds that we have. Several years ago, we put definitions of all of our funds in city code to help designate what each one of our funds should be used for. This really is mostly for helping to explain to the state auditors what each fund can be used for, and just add some clarification so that they don't have to keep digging and asking for what the funds are used for. This makes it very clear where they're at, and so it makes their job easier, makes our job easier. And each year, I think we bring this around budget time, and because as we are looking to 2023 to figure out what funds we're going to have, some funds are no longer necessary, and we do need funds for certain other projects. As mentioned in the agenda packet, we no longer have our voted police station bonds, and so we no longer need this fund to track the debt service payments. We've also have no more LIDs. The last assessment was paid, I believe, earlier this year, and so the LID funds can go away. But we do have some capital projects coming up, and so we are adding a couple funds for those. But otherwise, it's pretty boring.
All right, any questions for Brad? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to adopt ordinance 2022-25, amending and restating section 1.20.010 Wenatchee City Code, funds defined purposes.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rojanostati and second by Councilmember Harold to adopt ordinance 2022-25, amending and restating section 1.20.010 of the Wenatchee City Code regarding funds defined purposes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so the last item is something that does not require a vote of the council today, but it's an update on the city's budget. So the Finance Committee 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks
Yes,
ago,
3 weeks ago.
whenever we met last, went through the list of asks, both in terms of employment asks and other asks. And I think most of the stuff got approved. A few items did not. I think in terms of labor, the Finance Committee recommended a third person in our HR department. We continue to hire and have a lot of turnover citywide in employees, and it was pretty clear that cities our size generally have a 3 or 4 person HR department. We did add a utility billing specialist or clerk to our ask as well. Brad has asked for another finance person because we are switching software. And he has asked that when he talked to other cities that did this, that extra accounting personnel would be very helpful in that process. And then we had to arm wrestle over Dave Erickson's request for another parks maintenance person. He always asks for one. But in light of all of the vandalisms and things that are going on, we thought it was important to add that position as well. Most of the rest has been sort of standard stuff that we would normally see. So Brad, I'll turn it over to you. That was my 30,000-foot look at it, and let you go through any other details you may want to look at.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to get down onto the 10-foot level. But one of the main reasons for bringing this tonight is to have the preliminary budget available to the public and available to council, so that it's in the open. I know you've seen a lot of some of the details that have been emailed out previously, but this is tonight. You've got the preliminary budget summary. That what we typically like to focus on is the general fund and the recurring revenues and recurring expenses. At this point in time, it's relatively balanced. There is a relatively small negative of $138,000 between our recurring revenues of $30 million and our recurring expenses of $31 million. Well, I should say $30.9 million and $31 million. So there is a small negative difference, but that really will we've already had some changes between this version of the preliminary budget and the way it stands today. So that number is actually half of that negative, is about negative 70,000. And that will, we think that will probably even get closer to breaking even. And even if we do adopt a budget that has a negative recurring balance like this, the nature of our revenue budgeting is we typically always exceed our revenues and we underspend our expense budget because legally we have to stay under our expenditure budget. And so even if we budget for a slight negative, we're still going to end up positive overall when we actually play out. So right now, our budget is in good shape going into 2023. There will be some changes between now and when you see this next in, believe it's a couple weeks from now. And I think at the next meeting, we'll have available to the public our draft final budget. There's a possibility it would have some changes, but I don't anticipate any changes after the next council meeting. So it'll be in a more robust, more of the final budget packet look. And so you'll get a few more details on that if you want. We can walk through each department and each fund, but unless you have specific questions, I probably won't do that. Most of the increases you'll see are due to regular salary benefit increases. We've got interfund charges, we've got contracts that we have to update our budget for, and then we've got the requests. I think we have $400,000 of requests that the mayor mentioned. A lot of that was salaries of the 4 positions. But otherwise, it's pretty clean rolling over the prior year to the next year. And
Do you have that little spreadsheet that you showed us at Finance Committee that started with last year's budget and then added, and then on the expense side?
yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
that available to pop up? I think that's an interesting, maybe not?
I do not. I know I
Okay.
have it in my email.
Oh,
I
that's
can
all
bring
right.
it up. It did go. I do believe it's included in the Finance Committee
Okay.
notes. So if
Okay.
you want to take a look at that, hopefully I'll get that sent out either tonight or in the morning. And there's a chart in there that shows how we start with our 2022 budget, and then we add our salary and benefit changes, our contract changes, and our request changes, and it shows where we started from, where we're currently at, and yeah, it sort of walks through
So this
all of those things.
preliminary budget will be available for the public tomorrow?
It's part
Now?
of it's
Part
now.
of it now?
It's been available since the agenda packet went out.
And if, we'll probably get some calls on it. I usually get a couple.
Oh,
So we get a couple calls or something, and then it's available for how long, and then people can comment on this.
so the budget, it's been available since it was published with the agenda packet. When the next agenda packet comes out for the 27th, is that the next meeting? It should, we can include, or maybe we even post it next to the agenda on our calendar. Okay,
Oh, okay.
and, yeah,
Okay.
and I can bring a couple copies if people want, but
I think this is great for
Yeah.
the public to, if there's somebody interested in this, to be able
Yeah.
to grab it with ease and
yeah,
comment
absolutely.
to us, and that's what we're
The,
here
the,
for.
the full budget, the big book with all of it in there is available when?
That's what I'm hoping I should
Okay.
have that done on the 27th.
Okay.
I'll bring some copies and we'll send it out on the 27th. Yeah, I don't think we'll have it in time to make it on the agenda, but we'll have it available to the public on the 27th,
And adoption is still scheduled for mid-November-ish?
the 17th.
All right,
I have a couple of questions.
yeah, go ahead.
So I see legal is going up by 32.5%. Can you tell me what the big increase in legal is?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. We did meet with Steve and Danielle probably 3 weeks ago or so, and went over their, obviously, there's 2 sorts of things that are going on with now 3 things. So I think first and foremost, obviously their workload is going up. We ask a lot of that department, especially with public records and lots of police records and redaction. And so last year, in reviewing the last 12 months, they've been writing off just under $20,000 a month in their fees. And that's asking a lot of your legal team to say, we're just going to eat $20,000 a month. On top of that, they're only eating $20,000 a month, but they're only charging $240 an hour when attorneys of that level should be charging between $350 and $400 an hour. I think Mike even said you've got someone $425 working for you. So the combination of both of those are really not sustainable. And then they've got to hire additional attorneys to work on the work that they're working for us for. So in looking at all of that, we sat down and negotiated a 3-year contract that you'll see at our next meeting. And the base fee is $720,000, which is what's in today's budget packet. So we did talk about it at Finance Committee today. They're a valued part of our team. We ask a lot of them, and we felt this was the right number to get them back in line where they should be.
Okay, and I guess I was assuming it was a lot of the public records requests. That continues to plague a lot of people in a lot of cities, and I kind of assumed that was a big chunk of that was due to public records requests and them having to review everything. The other thing I guess I'm curious about is HR.
Yes, sir.
We used to have one HR person that did it all, and we were kind of taken back when we needed an assistant for that, and now we're getting a second assistant. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would obviously, when I first became mayor, we had an HR manager, and that was not near enough for what we were doing, and we were forcing all of it HR basically on all of our department heads, right? The department heads at that time were basically your HR directors, and you had one person sort of pushing paper, and that clearly didn't work. So we hired a director who came in and took over, and then we got an assistant. And when you start looking at the number of paperwork, and we hire how many people in the summer? 80 people in the summer, and we have to terminate 80 people in the summer, and the number of people that we're running through in terms of hiring and employee handbooks and union negotiations. And Carrie made an impassioned plea to the Finance Committee about when you look at cities our size, they either have 3 or 4. And we have 2. And she made, I think, a good presentation of the Finance Committee. And the Finance Committee agreed that she would get to have basically a clerk to help her in her office. So that was the decision made by the Finance Committee. I supported it. And I think, you try to give your departments the tools that they need. I thought that was a request she made last June, and we told her no. We said, let's wait until we get through the budget process to see where we're at financially. And so I said, when you come back and make a plea during our budget process. And so that was a decision that the Finance Committee made. I support it, and it's in the budget. It's one of 4 new asks, I think.
Okay, I guess at some point I'd like more information about it. We can talk offline.
Yeah, or if any of the Finance Committee want to say anything about that, I mean.
Keith, I struggled, this is Mike Boyer, I struggled with this. I think that's why we postponed it, I think originally when the request came earlier. And then I think it's part of our whole world with more paperwork, with everything we touch. So there is a demand there. But yeah, I struggled a little bit.
Yeah, but so much of our world is now computerized and should be streamlined. And it sounds like it's growing instead of becoming more efficient. So again, that's a lot of wages. I'm just struggling with that one. I kind of get with finance because there are so many rules and everything else in finance that, and then to implement new software, but I'm struggling with the HR, so I want to know more about it. Mike, maybe we can talk later, or Frank, I can contact you as well.
Perfect. Anything else, Keith?
That's it, thanks.
Right, Top, did you have something?
No, I just, no.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say, I see this every day, how the regulations and the work are increasing dramatically over the years. Yes, computers are supposed to streamline it, but they don't. They've actually created more work for us. I think it's absolutely necessary to, in order to keep up with current state and federal laws and for the benefit of our employees to have this position.
All right, so we've had our notice, and we'll have a public hearing on the 17th and have it published here in a couple weeks.
And the meeting before the 17th, is that on the 10th? I can't remember. Yeah. The meeting before the 17th, we'll actually have a chance to review that budget document before the final meeting. So we'll still have one more time that'll be presented to you before you're asked to adopt it.
All right, thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, mayor's report. So I'm going to put Steve Smith on the spot. So what did you tell us in department heads about the audit and your letter that you had to write to the auditor about our legal issues?
Well, so every year when we, as part of our audit process, we have to inform the auditor of what our, the claims that are pending against the city, claims actually filed or claims that have been made but aren't filed. And so I always write to AWC, RMSC.
And you write that as of today or as of the date of the letter, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
to find out what claims we have pending against the city, and so that I can put that in my letter to the auditor. And this year, the AWC told us that we have no pending claims. And they were, gave kudos to the city, which I think is a real testament to all our departments and our department heads and all our people and the good training that we do. And it's partly luck, but we also run a good city. And so pretty nice to have no pending claims, especially as we move into our new stage with the new insurance carrier next year. So it'd be nice to start fresh and clean.
Thought that was a really great reflection on your department heads that do great work and understand when things are going to get issues and having to get Steve Smith and their legal team involved in stuff. And, Keith, that sort of goes back to the pay me now or pay me later. Having a good legal team and paying them and keeping them up to breast on everything really pays dividends to the city in the long term.
Agreed. Yep, agreed.
Laura, help me out. Where we got going?
Just two reminder on dates, and then I'll kick it over for two more items for you. So tomorrow, the City Hall is closed. We are moving. So that's just City Hall services. So that's finance, that's HR, that's the mayor's office, the clerk's office. Next week, IS is moving into this building. There will be no closure, but just in terms of operations might be a little impacted. And then the following week, the Public Service Center will be closed on the 28th for their move to get all of the employees here. Exciting stuff. So we're all moving along there. Next week is also Revitalize Washington. So there'll be lots of people who love downtowns in our downtown. So just a reminder that from the 19th to the 21st, that we'll have lots of great visitors. And then the mayor's speaking at a couple of the sessions. I'm attending some of the sessions just to learn a little bit more. So hope to see you, some of you out there. And then Mary wanted to talk about the latest on the convention center design.
Yeah, so I got two or three things, I think. So with respect to the convention center, I think we're going to see some designs, I think, next Thursday in our work session. We have met with the Performing Arts Center, and I think we're sort of working our way towards a design that's going to be the L-shaped, smaller version, and we'll be communicating that with our architects, I think, here pretty quickly. I think that decision's been made unless someone here has some sort of different view of the world. I think that's where the consensus has been. The PAC would like sort of a connected version if they could get to use it more, but I really think we're going to provide some additional bathrooms and other things that help them. So unclear. I would guess at this point, we're probably not going to take title to the Performing Arts Center at this point. That looking like that's going to go a different direction.
Yep.
And we'll make some improvements that will sort of benefit everybody, and then we'll sort of move forward that way. So we'll follow up with Woody and the crew, I think, here in the next little bit. But that seems to be the direction that I think we're headed at this point.
Yep, we'll meet with them next week along with the convention center staff, and then ALSC will be here to present to the council the latest concept. So we're kind of refining that bigger, the overall model to really start to program spaces and what it could look like, and so pretty exciting stuff. I think you guys will be really happy to see what we've come up with so far.
I am actively trying to find a second site for the Stay Center. I think the first one has gone really, really well. There's some issues in some of the public in that area, probably not 100% happy, but I think it's working very well. I'm trying to find a second site in the old station area and really struggling with, as I told Mayor Crawford, who's also looking in East Wenatchee, if it's something the city doesn't own, most of the folks don't want it in and around them. And so we've had conversations with other governmental entities, 3 that I know of, maybe more, who clearly have vacant property, who are like, nah, not interested. So I'm trying some other options. We have, I think, 17 in the Stay Center now, or something close to that. It's pretty clear we have another 15 or 20 in our valley that need to have a place to go. And so I'm working really hard to be able to try to find that. And if anybody has any ideas, I think it needs to be inside the city limits of the city of Wenatchee, just for some of the zoning issues, and or the city of East Wenatchee, and we're just really struggling with the second spot. So I'm spending a lot of time trying to find a second spot.
Mayor, was PD one of the people that you contacted regarding possible second site?
Yes. Port, PUD, ESD, just about anybody, yeah. Yeah. The PUD specifically with some property in East Wenatchee that they own, but they have it leased out to somebody. The ESD has a piece of property that we thought would be great. They've got it leased to somebody. So we're working hard to try to find something that works. I actually made an offer on a piece of property yesterday, but that was rejected. Again, we would have to come back to you guys obviously for approval, but just trying to figure out where the market sits in terms of being able to have something that we can control and put our hands on. Laura, you had more?
Want to talk about the delegate visit last week?
Yeah, so last Thursday, I know some of you were there. We had a visit from obviously Congresswoman Schreier and Senator Murray and Senator Cantwell, and then the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, was in town celebrating our Confluence Parkway $92.4 million infra grant and the $85 million state grant. So it was a very nice event out at the park, and a nice turnout, and anxious. They were excited to talk about it, and sad that it was a smoky day. It was one of the bad smoky days, but it was nice to show off our city and the park system. And we're moving forward with NEPA and expect to have those documents into the federal government before the end of the year. So that's moving along.
Yep, and the Secretary was very open about saying that this was one of the largest federal awards. So that was pretty exciting to hear that directly from him. That
I think they all
recognize
said
that.
it.
Yeah.
I think all 3 of them said this was the largest award that time by a long ways.
Right.
So
very
kudos to our staff and the team that we put together. And I mean, the list is forever long. And
yeah. He also said he'd be back for the ribbon cutting, so I will
Yes.
hold him to that. I
Okay.
will reach out at that point in
but
time.
we argued about what ribbon cutting did he mean? The ribbon cutting to start the event, or the ribbon cutting when it was done? So
Both.
I don't know. Is it both? Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. Can't think of anything else. Council members, anything on your stuff that you're working on?
Councilmember Kulas and I attended the Association of Washington Cities.
Thank you
Cities
for
on
doing
Tap.
that. I was out of town, so thank you
Oh,
for
no
doing that.
problem, no problem. It's always really good. There was a lot of discussion around pursuits by the police, and they are working on a compromise. They feel like they're never going to get that completely switched over or back to the way it was, that we need to meet somewhere in the middle, and hopefully we can do that. I think the legislature probably realizes that they need to make some changes to it. And just saying that, but overall, it was a great meeting. And then we had our Columbia River Local Homeless Task Force meeting on Monday afternoon. Scott Johnson was there from Wenatchee Rescue Mission, and he talked about what they're doing out there. He felt it was going very smoothly. I think they're doing an excellent job. I'm really pleased with how this has come together. He said the only problems they've had has been from the public driving by, obscenities, throwing rocks, throwing whatever at them. But some of these people that are in there are working. The vast majority of them are working. They've just been shoved out of affordable housing and they can't find. There's one young gentleman living there that he's been homeless now for about 6 months. He's there because he can't find a place to live, but he is working. He's fully employed. His landlord raised the rent and he had no place to go because he couldn't afford to pay that. So this is a common thread we're hearing. Also, our gentleman that has caused so many problems with piling his garbage up on his car.
Scott's got him, yep.
He's out there and Scott's been working with him and told him he had to work on consolidating his garbage and he's been making progress with it. So that's good. They're allowed to stay for 120 days. If they aren't showing that they're making progress through finding permanent housing during that time and working through their issues, then they're out. But I think it's a good program. It's going to be successful, and I hope we find that second site soon. So
I hope so too. And it's my number one goal, but it's,
yeah,
we're just racking our heads trying to figure out where the right spot is. So anybody that's got ideas about where that might be, but I do think it's got to be inside the city limits of the city of Wenatchee. At least that's what we control. And we just got to sort of find the right spot.
I agree.
At that session on Monday, the communities that do not have their own law enforcement agencies kind of dominated the time talking about pursuit issues, which I found fascinating.
Yeah.
And avoiding the other issues that the biggest one that's and there's a committee working on it, and it'll come to the Legislative Priorities Committee, and that's the likelihood that the legislature is going to preempt some of the local land use laws because some of the cities are just not carrying the water on issues, and there were some there.
Yes, we know which
that
ones
don't
they
carry
are.
the water,
Yep.
like Wenatchee has. And I was just at a professional planning conference in Vancouver and got to tout the good work that our community development department and our planning commission did on our redo of particularly pursuing the so-called missing middle housing there. It is likely, though, that AWC will reach some sort of compromise position with the legislature to have some measure of preemption so that it's not as damaging as it could potentially be.
Yep. And it's too bad that it gets to that, but it gets to that because not all communities are willing to do their part.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a burden on those that do, and that's not fair. So.
And Mr. Jammerman was in attendance too.
Yes, he told me.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
he was.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? So we will have a work session next week, and then we'll be in regular session in 2 weeks. All right. Thanks, everybody.
I just hate, hang on.
Yeah.
I got a couple things
sure.
on solid waste. Even with the reduced hours at the recycling, I keep calling it recycling centers, but it's the moderate waste, hazardous waste facility, even with reduced hours, they actually brought in more material this year than they did last year. Looking at like 22 tons. And they've also increased their reuse of paint, so they're able to get the usable paint back into the hands of a lot of people now, which is great. See that not going into a landfill or other places. And then I also sent you all via Tammy a document. So the state passed House Bill 1799, which requires the Chelan County to start changing how they do recycled material. One of the big things is that not only do they have to start a composting program, but they also have to prove that they're purchasing recycled materials to use in landscaping and things like that, and they laid that out pretty clearly. Right now, it encourages the cities and other entities to start documenting how much material they're recycling and how much they're actually purchasing. So this could change in the next few years where we're going to have to do this. So it's something that we need to start thinking about now so that we're prepared. Fortunately, with yard waste and things like that, we've already got that well under control. But this is also looking at waste foods and things like that. So if you're curious about it more, you can look up House Bill 1799.
Yeah, and we got that in our emails today, Keith, so thank you. All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Exit conference Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Yeah, we're meeting with the state auditor next Tuesday at 10 a.m. If you're going to come, please let Tammy know.
What is it?
It's the exit conference with the state auditor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Brad's favorite day.
Poor Brad.
All right, everybody. No other business. We're adjourned.